There. Tomorrow classes are going to be normal, by the way. Okay, don't worry about that. It's just for today that we had um, this delay. Okay, anyways, we're ready. And let us start. Now we can share once again. Great. Well, as you know, in order to practice this, we have to, first of all, read a passage that is about 100 words long. And then you're going to have to listen to a conversation, okay? Before you start preparing your response, we have a lot of things to analyze before we actually respond to the question. So let's start with that. Let me present you the first exercise. Okay, yes, speaking test number 2. Great, let's go. Well, here you have. So as you know, you have 45 seconds for reading this passage. As I explained you yesterday, most of the time people are able to read this in 30 seconds. So if you do so, please start thinking about your summary of this reading passage later, okay? So I'm gonna take your time here. I'm gonna paste this passage, okay, to the chat box for you to read it there, because here, as you can see, it'll be a little bit uncomfortable if you read it, right? Because, well, I will have to be scrolling down and stuff like that, and I think that's not everybody reads at the same time. So look at your WhatsApp group. I have just sent the first reading passage there, okay? It's in the WhatsApp group, and I want you to please read it, okay? It's in the WhatsApp group. And I'm also going to paste it here, I think that I can. Yeah, it's also here in the chat box. So you have the option to read it in those 2 different places, WhatsApp and also the chat box here in Zoom. So please, you have 45 seconds for reading that, and then we're going to listen to the conversation. Let's start. Okay, just give me a second. Somebody else has entered before you start reading. Let's wait for this other person. Okay, great. So, oh no, it's just Lenny. It's the same. Well, anyways, start reading. Okay, there you are. Those are the 45 seconds. And now please listen to a conversation of 2 students discussing the same topic.
Now, listen to 2 students discussing the announcement.
Did you hear about the new food court on South Campus?
Yeah, man, it's too bad they're getting rid of the cafeteria.
What? Why? Won't it be good to have a few more options?
I don't know. I don't feel like this really gives us more choices. The cafeteria already had dishes from other countries. They had vegetarian options and customizable sandwiches, too. It's not like the quality of this new food court's ingredients is going to be much better than what we had. I'll bet it's all from the same source, even.
You think? I mean, yeah, if they don't even change their supplier, the offerings probably won't be all that different.
Exactly. Just pricier.
Wait, why is that?
The cafeteria was all you can eat. You'd get as much food as you wanted for a flat price. But at a food court, you've got to order individual meals. That ends up costing more.
You've always liked to load up a big plate, huh?
You've got that right. If I have to buy 4 meals every day, it's going to be hard on my wallet.
The man expresses his opinion about the change described in the article. Briefly summarize the change, then state his opinion about the change and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
Okay, guys, great. So, well, now you're able to prepare your response because you have received both materials, the reading passage and the conversation. And remember, your task here is to prepare a summary of both of these materials, the reading and also, of course, the listening, and then to present that in your response by using the template that we discussed yesterday, okay? But in order to do so, you are going to be able to enjoy 30 seconds. So please, both of you, start preparing your responses now. Great, there you are, guys. Well, now it's time for you to start responding. So here I'm going to prepare your minutes. I'm gonna prepare it here actually. So as you know, you have 60 seconds, which of course is 1 minute to respond the question. So well, let's go. Let's listen to your responses. In this case, I would like to listen to Lucia first. Okay. So please, here, Lucia, you can start initiating this round and responding to the question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, we saw that about the redesign of the hall, and it will be transformed in a new food court for students. So on the other hand, well, we have that the students are putting in the table many aspects about the economic and about the variety that the restaurant used to have. And the second reason is that the many different dishes or many type of dishes between the economic prices and between the different varieties and quantities are going to impact or affect to their wallets, they said, or to the economic situation, because it was a restaurant and the difference between a food court.
Great. Thank you very much, Lucia. Fantastic. And now let's go and listen to Lenny. Okay, so please, here, Lenny, now you can start responding to this question now.
Okay, to begin, in the first passage, the constructions of a new cafeteria is going to be in the next semester, that it's going to replace the old one. The restaurant, the new restaurant, will be varied and specialized in some kind of foods. On the other hand, about the conversation between two people, I think there are a lot of aspects that they are accord and not. For example, about the different foods in the day and the economic aspect too. And in the first idea, I think the change is gonna be good, because the woman said that it's a good change at the campus.
All right. Great. Thank you very much, then. Fantastic. Well, great, guys. Well, thank you. Let me offer you some feedback then, individually. So let's start with you, Lucia. I think that you offered a very good summary of the reading part. I remember that yesterday we discussed this and we said it's better to always prepare this summary as superficial as we can, right? That is to say, the reading passage, because it's not actually necessary to be included in the response, but we do it because, of course, we want to have some sort of balance and completeness in our delivery. So great. I think it was a very good summary. They're very superficial. 2 sentences I think you used, so it was very good. Yeah, and when you came to the summary of the listening part, you also summarized it very much appropriately, mentioning both of the main ideas, right, that were discussed by the main speaker, when he said, I think that the variety is not actually going to be increased by this new dinner hall, because actually we already had sandwiches and international foods and stuff like that in the old cafeteria. And the second thing that is that actually everything is going to be pricier now, and that's a reason why he disliked it. Okay, and notice that here you mention all those aspects, you mention all those elements and ideas, but here my only commentary, and this is actually a commentary for both of you. will be that when you respond to this, the best manner to do so is to concentrate the response on the main speaker alone. It's not necessary for you to say anything with regard to the other students. So instead of saying, for example, right, as you did in your responses in this case, you said they, right? They were saying this, or they discussed this, or they discussed this. Better if you make it singular. And as I say, you merely talked about what the main speaker said. The way I do it is when I summarize, right, I say, you know, we listened to two students discussing this, and one of them, right, I separate my response from that point, and the rest of it is going to be about that particular student. That is the main one, of course, the one that presented his or her arguments and etc. and opinion. And I concentrate the rest of the response on her or him. And what I do is to merely mention him in the rest of the response. So I say, this student said, and he said, or he complimented, and he argued, right? So I'm centering my response there. And you know why is that great? Because apart from concentrating the response merely on the main speaker, when you make it singular, you avoid this interchange of dialogue. Because maybe both of you were having troubles because you were trying to express, right? The woman responded this to him, or the main speaker said this, and then she replied this, and then she said this. So that interchange of dialogue can be avoided by simply ignoring the secondary speaker, that in this case was the female student, right? The one that was simply reacting to the main speaker, saying, yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, I know you. You always like to have this big plate, right? And she was just reacting. She was not actually saying something relevant. So if you ignore her in her response and you merely talk about the main speaker, you avoid that interchange of dialogue that takes more time and it's unnecessary. It's not something very much relevant. So as I say, that will be a recommendation for both of you. Try to make it singular. Of course, you can mention like at the beginning of the summary, right? We listened to two students discussing this because indeed there are two people. But then you can say, and one of them proclaimed this, right? He said that the cafeteria was very good as it was before because it continued to have salad bars, it had sandwiches, it had international food, and also it's expensive, right? And you say afterwards, he also said that now purchasing individual meals is going to be overall very much pricey and way, I don't know, expensive when compared to the old single, let's say single coverage system that was used in the same or in the old cafeteria, right? Concentrate on him. Yeah, but it was great. It was a great response to Sia. And the same for Lenny. Very good summary of the reading part. In this case, Lenny uses more time in the reading. I think it's fine. As I say, you can decide how much time to invest on the responses. But the recommendation that I offer to Lucia is also for you that if you avoid that mention of both the speakers, you're going to facilitate your response, first of all, by avoiding the interchange of dialogue. And then you're going to facilitate as well because your attention is going to be centered on the main person, right? The one that offers the relevant information. But yeah, great. That's my commentary with regard to this response. It was a very good one. Great. So let's go to the next exercise. We have more. And now Flavia has also joined us.
Sorry, teacher. I had a question.
Yes, Lucia, tell me.
Yeah, in this analysis, I mean, for example, you gave us a template, right, of 4 points, like a suggestion. But my concern here is that, for example, in the first point, we have to say like the summarize. In the second, it's like a summarize, but of the audio. But in the third and the fourth point, is to give another summarize or to like, I mean, to catch up the main point, to highlight the main point. For example, they talk about the variety of dishes and directly says in a general way, or is just like a resume to say what they say. I have that dude is we have to synthesize everything, or just or better is like a resume. I'm confused with that, with the 3 point and 4 point.
Yeah, very good. It's a very good question. So let's come back then to the template we had yesterday, and here we have it. Great. So I think that yeah, it's a good question and it's very much fair because here the third and the fourth point say first main speaker's reason and second main speaker's reason. So, the reason why I think that the third and the fourth steps are designed this way is because in the second point, you make a very superficial summary of think it that way. In the second point, you make a very superficial summary of the entire conversation, because the way I normally say it is, on the other hand, we have listened to two students discussing this, and there is one who disagrees with that idea. And if you notice, if you think about it, that second step that I have just uttered is something like a very superficial summary of the listening part. And then the third and the fourth steps for me are like spaces in which I merely discuss the main speaker's opinion. I don't talk about the other speaker, as I say, but I go deeper into the main speaker's reason why he has that opinion. Why does he agree with it? Why does he disagree with that change, in this case, the cafeteria, right? So I say, first of all, he says that the cafeteria in its previous state had all the dishes and stuff, right? And then I move to the second reason. So if you notice, what I'm doing is to make a profound, as you said, analysis of the arguments delivered by the main speaker. So you can think of that way. I don't know if that explains a little bit more.
Yeah, teacher. And for example, if we go to the example that we do about the cafeteria, we have, for example, the reasons that they talk. In my case, I found like 3 cases, like, for example, the economic factor, the variety of the dishes, and the difference in prices. So for these points, that is 3 and 4, I just have to choose 3 and 4, or it's better if I said everything, or just to highlight 2 main points and that's it.
Okay, yeah, very good question. Yeah, here I would recommend you to mention all the points you listened, that is to say, all the arguments you noticed being proclaimed by the speaker. The reason why here I have 3 and 4, that is to say 2 arguments, right? First main speaker's reason and second main speaker's reason, is because normally they give 2. Normally, you're going to notice that as we continue practicing, that the main speaker delivers 2 arguments, why he believes that way. But if you find out more than that, maybe 3, as in this case, where you're here mentioning that you found 3 different arguments delivered by the main speaker. So mention them. Mention the 3 that you have found. If you found, for example, 4 of them, mention them. The idea here of the third and the fourth step is to make clear that the main reasons or the arguments, delivered by the main speaker should always be discussed, should always be included in their response and analyzed in a very deep manner, not very much superficially as we do with the reading or as we do here in the second step, right? But the idea is that in the third, the fourth, or even the fifth step, right, if it exists, you have to talk about the reasons that the main speaker has given. Doesn't matter if you just find 2 or 3 or 4, mention them all, and take your time in order to discuss the details that the main speaker mentioned there. If he presented an illustration, maybe, or something. But yeah, if you find out more than 2 arguments, mention them. The structure doesn't vary; it's just that you're augmenting, right? A 5th step or a 6th step, and that's totally fine when that happens. But as I say, normally you're going to listen that the main speaker is going to mention 2 arguments. But if he mentions more, include them and follow the same principle. Discuss that argument, and if you catch any detail or illustration that he offered concerning that argument, mention it, right? In order to make your response a little bit more complete and filled with information, right?
And teacher, and it's like, it's just like intention is just a paraphrasing, right? It's not that I have to add my personal analysis or something, right? It's just paraphrasing what they say. Just that.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, it's a summary. Your opinion should never be mentioned. Exactly. It's a summary. Like, you never say something like, and I disagree with that, because he's just considering, or he's having a very narrow vision, and he doesn't consider that. For example, although the supplier is the same one, the person who's going to work at the cafeteria are different. Maybe you could say that, right? Because you say, hey, but he's not reasoning very well. But if you agree or disagree, it's not something relevant for this question. Given that, as I say, we have stopped with the independent question. And now we're just journalists. And journalists, when they are working, making this type of coverings, right? on news and information, they don't give their opinions. They don't say, hey, and I think this is wrong. They just present it as they have received it. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, teacher. Now it's clear.
My pleasure. No, my pleasure. Thank you very much for your questions. Great. So we have any other question, any other clarification here, or we move on to the next exercise? Great. But it's a very good point, right? The one that Lucia mentioned here. It's always a very good time to remember, don't mention your opinion, okay? In this case, you don't have to say if you agree with the opinion this speaker is delivering. If you find that, I don't know, maybe you find it ludicrous, you say, no, this is preposterous. He's not reasoning well. Because as I say, just when I listened to him, I thought, but he's not considering that people who are going to work at the cafeteria are different stock, right? I mean, different officers, different chefs, different, I don't know, different staff, let's say, just to simplify. But the idea is that he didn't realize that. But in my response, I would never say that. I would never say, I think that he blundered there because he didn't consider this or etc. I wouldn't say it. I would just say what he said, and I will move on to the next point that he said. If he said it is a terrible idea because the supplier is the same, I just repeat that, but in a simplified manner, of course, right? Because this is a summary, and we don't have 2 minutes to summarize this, which is one. Anyways, let's go.
And teacher, how many questions do we have of this style, of this type?
Of this particular type, that is the second type of question, just one. As we said, we have 4 different questions in the exam. The first one is the independent one that we practiced last time. It's just one. I mean, for example, it could be, some people believe that cats and dogs are good pets, but in your opinion, are cats better than dogs? And that will be your question number 1. And that's it. You don't have more questions of that type, like what is better, warm or cold seasons? That is not going to be happening. You're not going to receive 2 questions of the same type, just one of the first type of question, one of this one of the third, and one of the fourth. Overall, you're going to respond 4 questions, all of them different, right? All of them of their own type, of their own class, right? But yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Great. So here we have another question. Let's go. We're going to read this together. So let's go, okay? I'm going to paste it as I did in the WhatsApp group. And also I'm going to paste it here in the chat box, okay? You get 45 seconds for reading this. Here you have. Okay, so now please, the 3 of you, go and read the second passage that I have just pasted into the WhatsApp group, and then we're going to have a chance to listen to the conversation. You can start reading now. Great, there you are. So now it's time for you to start listening a conversation of 2 students of the same university, and also, of course, discussing the same topic. So please start listening now.
Now listen to 2 students discussing the announcement.
So did you hear that the university is cutting its transportation budget and ending all bus service?
I did hear that. But it's no big deal, right? I mean, the university is also compensating all students with $50 vouchers for public transportation. The vouchers can be used on, the subway and public buses. So, it sounds like there won't be a big problem.
Are you kidding me? This is going to be horribly inconvenient. I mean, first of all, there's no public transportation to the DeWolf Science Center. It's far away from any subway and bus station, and getting there will require a 20-minute walk through some of the worst neighborhoods in the city.
I guess that will be a problem for some people. But try to look at it this way. There's too much division in this country between university students and the people who live in the cities around them. Won't this encourage a spirit of togetherness, like when we're all using the same public transportation?
But actually, I think that this policy, that it won't help create much new interaction between students and city dwellers at all.
Why not?
Well, because $50 is not very much money. I mean, it'll probably only cover about a month's worth of subway or bus passes. And, most students won't be able to afford to take public transportation. So with students forced to walk everywhere, I just don't understand where all of this great new interaction is going to be happening.
The female student expresses her opinion about why she disagrees with the university's new policy. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Great. Now, there is something very interesting here that I want you to notice, that the same order in the exam tells you the female student, right? Who in this case, of course, was the main speaker, expresses her opinion about why she disagrees with the university's new policy. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion. Notice that the same question, the very same question tells you, hey, there's just one speaker here that is relevant to your exam and to the conversation. Now, take your time, employ it, invest it in explaining what opinion, what sort of opinion she had. Did she like this change? Did she agree? What reasons she postulated for having that particular opinion, right? So talk about her in your summary of the conversation, not about the male student, who, of course, in this case, was the secondary speaker, right? Because he was just reacting to the information. Great. So all of you, let's start preparing your responses now. There you are. Okay. So now it's time for you to deliver your responses, okay? So in this case, our dear Lenny is going to collaborate with the first response. So please, dear Lenny, you can start responding to this question now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, the university will not offer complimentary transport anymore. On the other hand, one of them is agree with the change, but the female student is disagree because she believes that $50 isn't enough to travel during the semester. And opposite to the first student, she thinks that the public transport will not help with the interaction between the students because they are not immersed in the environment enough. And that's all.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Great. And now let's move on with Lucia. Lucia, you can start responding to this question now.
Okay. To begin with, in the reading passage, we saw that the university is no longer available to give a complimentary transportation. And instead of that, just give a $50 pass. On the other hand, we have the discussion of the uses of the $50 pass and the advantages and disadvantages of this dollar pass. According to the female speaker, we have this first main reason that $50 is not sufficient, that the transportation and the stops and the closes and the different stops are really far between the houses of student houses and the university. And secondly, the interaction between other students and university is really different and far away.
Great. Thank you very much, dear Lucia. Fantastic. And now let's finalize this round with Flavia. Okay. So please, dear Flavia, you can start responding to this question now.
Okay. To begin with, in the reading passage, the university will no longer be able to offer transportation. The female is not agree with that because this this will be a problem with all the students.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much. Great, Flavia. Well, awesome. So let's go with the feedback, okay? So starting with you, Lenny, I think that in this case, it was a fantastic summary. When you started the reading passage, you summarized it very superficially. And I think that, well, you don't even take 10 seconds now in order to summarize it, right? Because if I'm not wrong, you took approximately 10 seconds to summarize the reading passage, which is absolutely great, right? Because you are making it a very superficial, vague, and at the end, that's the idea, right? Because you jumped directly to the conversation as you had to. And also there, your summary was very efficient, right? Because you talked about both of the arguments presented by the main speaker, in this case, the female one. To argue is not a very good change, the one that the university wants to initiate by taking this supplementary transportation and offering this new bus service, right? Or this public transportation pass. And as you said, the main speaker said that, well, it is not a very much high quantity of money, the one that the students are receiving. And also, she believes that these interactions with the community surrounding the university is not going to actually take place because, well, there is a lot of, there are a lot of barriers and obstacles that would have to be overcome and, of course, dodged. But apparently, she's very much a skeptic when discussing that. Anyways, I think it was great. And actually, if you noticed, you had 10 extra seconds, right? And that's great because, as I told you, it's not necessary to use the entire minute in order to offer a great response. In this case, I think you did it. And maybe now, if I can tell you something, you still got 10 seconds, right, in your response. And think about it. If you have more details to include for any of the arguments presented by the main speaker, do it. And don't limit yourself because maybe you say, well, I still have more information to say. I still have more data to mention and to talk about, but it's about the first argument she gave. And now that I offer the second argument, maybe it's going to be a little bit, contradictory, let's say, to talk about the first argument or something. No, not actually. Because you don't actually need to respect, yes or yes, the order in which the arguments are being placed. If you finalize your response and you see that you still have more information to discuss with regard to the first arguments the main speaker offered, do that. So with regard to the first argument she offered, she also said, right, that, and you continue. Because if you have more details, more information to add, you can always do it, okay? That's the thing, but it was a beautiful response anyways. And then we had Lucia as well, who offered a great summary as well of the reading part, and also a great summary of the conversation. Notice that in this case, you had some struggles, right, with the time. And it was because in this case, your summary of the first reason was too long. So that's, of course, something that you have to measure and to calibrate by yourself, right? You're going to realize next practice that if you stay there for too much time and you mention too much details, it's just not going to be enough for you to go and talk about the second argument. But that's something you get by practicing, okay? Anyways, it was a great response, very good. And then we also had Flavia, great summary of the reading passage, very good. And then she jumped into the conversation to talk about how the female students said that, part of the alumni were having problems with their service. Maybe, of course, you can complement a little bit more in that part. You can talk about the two arguments, right, that she offered. In this case, that she found this interaction to be very difficult to take place. And secondly, how she talked about the social barriers that must be overcome before these students have an actual relationship with the community surrounding the institution they are studying in. So yeah, you can complement there a little bit more. There are more things to mention there, the arguments, you can talk about the illustrations too. But it was great. I think that you understand the concept, right? But try to mention that information too, because you still had plenty of time. You had like 40 seconds if I'm not wrong. So you have a lot of space and you can use it to talk about more details and things because there are a lot of information and data being mentioned here. Okay, great. Anyways, let's go to our next practice. You're doing great. So let's go and practice another one. Here I have it. In this case is a reading passage about some sort of a scholarship that is being offered at the university. So let's inform ourselves about what this scholarship is all about. I'm gonna place it there and also here in the WhatsApp group. And the three of you get 30 seconds in order to, excuse me, 45 seconds, not 30, in order to read the passage, okay? So please, you can start reading now. Okay, fantastic. Now you're going to have the possibility to listen a conversation of two students discussing the same topic, this Bono Core scholarship. So listen very carefully.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
I think it's totally unfair that the Buonocore Scholarship is only being offered to students in the Romance Languages department. Like, it's an amazing opportunity, and it's so sad to see it monopolized in this way.
Is it really such a bad thing to limit the scholarship to one department, though? I mean, the fewer students compete for the prize, the easier it'll be for students like us to win it. After all, there are only 7 other students in the whole Romance Languages department besides us.
That doesn't change the fact that it's wrong for the scholarship to be limited to our single department. It's a matter of principle. First of all, there are students in other departments, like history and classics and Renaissance studies, all of whom would definitely benefit from a year in Italy. Why shouldn't they get a chance to submit their work to the committee?
But if they also submitted their essays, it would be harder for us to get the prize.
Look, just because something benefits me personally doesn't make me think that it's right. I mean, I have a lot of friends in history and classics and Renaissance studies, and I totally agree with them that it's wrong for them to be ineligible to compete for the scholarship. After all, Romance Languages is a very small department, and it seems abusive for us to keep this resource all to ourselves.
I guess I see where you're coming from.
Also, I think that it takes something away from the honor of winning the scholarship if the competition isn't very strong. I'd rather know that I earned the opportunity to study in Rome by competing against the very best students, instead of thinking that I was only honored because other talented people were unnecessarily excluded from the process.
There you have. Well, very interesting conversation, this one, right? So now it's time for you to prepare your responses. As you know, you get 30 seconds in order to do so. And that, of course, starts right now, okay? So please, the three of you, start designing those beautiful responses now. Great. So in this case, you're going to help us, please, dear Lucia, to initialize this round. And you can start, please, responding to the question now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, we saw that they offer exciting new opportunity for students. Romance language is just for a limited group. On the other hand, we can see that students in one department is just benefits for some of them, and the female student says that it's necessary to include history, renaissance and other departments of students to have this opportunity. Secondly, she says that the effects or the impact that she had personally is not the same for the group, for a collective view. And in the third point is is a way to create opportunities to other talented students that can have this opportunity in Rome.
Great, thank you very much for your response. Your Lucia, fantastic. Now let's move on with Lenny's response. Please, your Lenny, you can start responding now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, the university is offering an opportunity to study for 2 semesters in Rome just to students for Romance languages. On the other hand, 2 students are discussing about the group that is benefited and with this scholarship. One of them said that history, classic, and another groups are benefit with this, and he is disagree. And on the other hand too, the female student is agree, because she said that the Romance department language is a little, so there is a strong competition between them, and two, that the benefit for all of them is great.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And now let's finalize with our dear Flavia. So please, Flavia, you can start responding to this question now.
Okay. To begin, within the reading passage, the university offer a new opportunity for students in the Romance language department. And she is angry with the university because they are giving these trips to the Romance language department. And she says that this limits other departments like history. And at the same time, she says that those of Romance language department are very few and it's unfair.
Great, beautiful. Thank you very much, Flavia. Fantastic. Okay, awesome. So great. Beautiful. Now, a very little general recommendation for all of you. You know, when you say, right, if somebody agrees or disagrees with another person, with a change, with an idea, with a statement, the way you say it is, she disagrees, he disagrees, or I disagree. It's not necessary to use the verb to be prefacing the verb agreeing, okay? So when you say I agree, you don't say I am agree. Or when you want to say that another person agrees or disagrees, you don't say she is agreeing. You don't say she is agree, or you don't say he is agree. You say she agrees, he disagrees, I agree, right? Without using the verb to be, because the verb agree by itself is necessary or sufficient, in this case, sorry, for fulfilling the purpose of expressing dissatisfaction with a particular statement or idea, okay? So just that general observation for all of you. That is a very common mistake, don't worry, it just happens that. Because in Spanish, we say, estoy de acuerdo, right? Like using the verb to be, prefacing this, another verb, agreeing or disagreeing. We sometimes, of course, confuse both of these usages and terms, right? But it's very much common, don't worry. Great, so now coming into, of course, the actual responses, Lucia offer a great one, talking about the 3 aspects why this student disagree with the university: ethics, exclusion, and of course, let's say the motivation of her own status, let's say, or personal conception when she considered, right, If other people are going to be disqualified, unjustly disqualified, I'm not going to feel very proud of me, right? If I win this scholarship. Great, fantastic response. Lenny also, great response. Summarizing the reading very well. Also the conversation, great. And also, of course, Flavia, right? Great response. Maybe you can add a little bit more of information there, Flavia. Of course, it's fine if you talk down to that point, but given that you still have 15 seconds, 20 seconds, you can feel it a little bit more if you have caught another detail or something. Don't hesitate to throw it there, okay? It's gonna be great if you mention more, but great response. Let's go and practice one last exercise before you go. And well, to perfect every single detail right into this point, but last response was excellent. All of you were very good, okay? Great, so let's go to the last exercise for tonight's class. Paste it here, chat box, and also WhatsApp group. So you get 4 or 5 seconds to read this new reading passage starting now. Beautiful, great guys. Well, there we are, and now it's time for you to start with the responses. Okay, so please, dear Lenny, we're going to start this new round, and you can please respond to the question now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, the university is announced a speech about.
Oh, sorry. We have listened. We have not listened to the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I blundered. Yeah, you should have told me. Sorry, I forgot. You know, it happens that sometimes I just I focus on the time and I forget that you have to listen to material. So sorry. Okay. Okay. Anyways, I realized. So listen. Okay. So sorry for that blunder. Well, go and listen.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
Can you believe that the Secretary of State's speech is being limited to students in the political science and government departments? It's really unfair that they get guaranteed access.
Wait, really? I mean, don't you agree that the Secretary of State's speech is especially important to students in government and political science?
But what about students in history or cultural studies? It's wrong to assume that just because someone studies government, the speech would automatically be more important for them.
I guess so, but can't you still apply to get a seat? So if it is important to you, you can just, show them that it is.
With the essay? That's not exactly ideal. The people who judge the essays will be professors from government and political science. They have their own ideas about what good and bad reasons are. They'll be too prejudiced.
You think?
Oh, totally. I mean, how will they be able to judge an essay by someone like a poet or a computer scientist or a sculptor? They'll probably just dismiss those essays completely.
The female student expresses her opinion about why she disagrees with the university's new policy. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Great. Now, let's go to the 30 seconds to prepare the response, okay? And then we're going to start with this last round of responses. So please, all of you get 30 seconds, and you can start now. Great, there you are. Now it's time for you to start, dear students, responding to the question. So please, all of you, now start responding. Oh, sorry, in this case, Lenny, okay? So Lenny, you're going to be responding. So please, you can start responding to the question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, the university announced a speech of an important political person just to students of political science in government departments. On the other hand, about the discussion about of these two students, they talk about about this important and public person. The female student said that a public person or this political person should give us ideas about the government and political science, but it isn't compared with other kind of studies. So she disagrees with the announce of the university.
Okay, thank you very much. Dear Lenny, now let's go with Lucia's response. Dear Lucia, you can start responding to this one now.
To begin with, in the reading passage, we saw that secretary will be making a 1-hour speech just for political science students. On the other hand, we can see that two students are talking about the limited of the space of this speech. The first reasons that the female student has is it's unfair that this opportunity is only for students from political science field. Because other students of other departments has the opportunity also to be part of that. And the second reason is to the people that evaluate these kind of events. It's normally from professors or computers, and sometimes it's according an essay, and an essay is not it's not at all fair according to concepts and visions.
Great, thank you very much. And now let's finalize this round with our dear Flavia, okay? So Flavia, you can start responding to this question now.
Okay, to begin with, in the reading passage, the university announced that the Secretary of the State will be making a speech, and one of the students, she disagrees because she said that this is unfair, that this talk is only for certain departments. There are other departments like history and culture that might interest them. I don't know.
Okay. Great. Anyway, very good response. Okay. Fantastic. Well, guys, so that's where we're finalizing our practice tonight. I think that, well, in this case, all of you presented great responses. Lenny summarizing, right, this disagreement and how unconvinced this female student felt with regard to the modality or mechanism that the university was using when deciding who could attend these 2 hours of speech, right, that the Secretary of the State would offer at the university. The same for Lucia, who offered a very good summary there, and also, of course, talking about how the main speaker suggested how inadequate would it be for the faculty of political science and I think laws to judge those essays that people who want to attend to the same event are, of course, submitting because they want to receive a seat, given that the criteria that professors in this area utilize is not the very same one that represent a fair judgment, right, of such an essay. Anyways, great response, and also, of course, Flavia here. As I say, you can always improve that aspect of maybe including more details, more illustrations, but trust me that with practice, that is going to be natural in you, okay? Great response anyways. Well, awesome. So as you can see, we're gonna finalize here, and tomorrow we're going to start with the third type of question, and that's finalizing this week, that is to say on Friday. We're going to have the chance to, of course, well, practice the third task of the speaking section, okay? So before you go, let us take your assistance, all right? Come in with the traditional poll. And if you have any question, please tell me. I'm here to respond to you. All right. Let's go look to this. Oh, great, guys. So here we have Lenny Jimenez.
Present, teacher.
Thank you very much, Lenny. We also have, in this case, Flavia Montaño.
Present, teacher.
Thank you very much, Flavia. And finally, we have Lucia Sullivan.
Here, teacher.
Great. Thank you very much, guys. Well, fantastic then to have you with you tonight. See you next time in order to continue with the third task of the speaking section. And that's, of course, to finalize this Friday with that part. And, well, to start a new week, or in a new year, actually, with the speaking section task number 4. Okay, so thank you very much. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, teacher. Bye, teacher. Bye, girls.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Thank you.